Two more opponents to vanquish. They'd both be in Dublin should they get that far to the final on June the 14th, as Leinster close in on a ninth league title, the first since their 4-in-a-row run from 2018 to 2021. The Scarlets fought very hard, particularly in the second half of the first half. They were down by 12 points to nil. There was 2 tries from Tom Rogers and then a spectacular chase from Blair Murray to bring them very close at half-time. But just the one score in the second half of the Scarlets try-wise. Leinster not at their best, but pulling away and doing more than enough in the end to win this URC quarter-final. Final score here at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. Leinster 33, Scarlets 21.
Well, it was a compelling game, gentlemen. It wasn't the washout that many assumed it would be, Stevie. Scarlets more than played their part, but ultimately, look at the stats in terms of possession and territory. Leinster dominated the areas where it really mattered and were deserved victors.
Yeah, I think they were in the end. To be honest, I think everybody probably expected a little bit more, but you got to give a lot of credit to the Scarlets. They made it difficult for them today. Probably couldn't get the same amount of width on their game as they would have liked, but you know, it was pretty close encounter, and I think, you know, whoever comes through, or sorry, Glasgow in the next game will be looking at this Leinster side and thinking that there's going to be opportunities for them next week. So yeah, I think if you look at the Leinster players, they'll be like, okay, we got the win, we got the job done, but we can play a hell of a lot better. But the Scarlets, fair play, they pitched up and they give them a good run.
We talked about this before the game, Simon, this kind of almost lose-lose scenario for Leinster today. If they romped to victory like we saw they did against the likes of Glasgow and Harlequins in Europe, people could say, well, they're going to be undercooked now going to the semis. They haven't been challenged enough. But if it's a close one as it was, people are still going to question whether they've got what it takes to go all the way.
Yeah, it was a lose-lose situation, to be fair. I think they'll be happy with the fact that they didn't run away with it, the coaching staff in particular. It was a close contest, especially up until half-time. The Scarlets, for all their credit, they did some unbelievable work. Just not enough on the day. Leinster's performance wasn't that convincing, a bit patchy at times, but when they really needed to score, Hugo Keenan's try was a crucial one. They got the job done, and it's very much on to the next one for them. But Glasgow will be a completely different outfit, I'd imagine, from Scarlets. Scarlets, you know, had to fight tooth and nail just to make the playoffs. They're coming up against the Glasgow side now next week, who'll fancy their chances and who'll have seen that Northampton game like everybody else and say, yeah, we have a similar type of game plan. We can test them in the wider channels. We can counter-attack against that Leinster outfit and make life harder than the Scarlets did. But full credit to Scarlets. Very impressive again tonight, but it was just one too much for them. And Leinster, credit to them as well, got the job done.
They certainly did. But going back to the Scarlets, Ryan, you saw some of their faces there. They are devastated. They were 8th seeds, you know, got into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth, and most of the bookies were giving them no chance here today at all. I guess their body language, their demeanour shows they were in a game, and they came here to win. They didn't come here just to take part.
Yeah, and I think part of that is probably, we heard Franco Smith talk about it last night when they played Stormers, Glasgow Warriors. You forget about the form that's happened in the season. So whether they finish 8th, it's still in a knockout game. So suddenly they've got everything to play for a game. You know, even though they'd fought, as Zeev said, tooth and nail to get here, they made it into that top 8 pool, and they had the opportunity to go a few more steps further on. And you know, they've won the title Pro 12 back in the day, and so they will be wanting to add to their trophy cabinet, and there will be frustrations there. But you know, as we said, they made a good go of it. That's not enough for them. That's not enough for the players. Dwayne Peel will be saying that. You know, we've got something to be proud of. You look at the state of the Welsh regions at the moment. And they're sort of flying the flag there for the Welsh regions. So they'll have known that today, coming here. They wanted to put a mark on this match, and that's where the frustrations, I think, will lie for them.
What about Leinster then, Stevie, overall? Because we said at the beginning, you know, they were poleaxed in the Champions Cup. That Northampton defeat really shook them up and made them question themselves, and they've kind of edged their way back towards the team we know they are. Their last game against Glasgow in the URC. Oh, I think we can head straight to the player of the match.
URC player of the match accolade. Hugo, congratulations, safely through to the next round, the semi-final against Glasgow to come. But your thoughts on what was a tough assignment today?
Yeah, we'll take the win. Knockout finals rugby. It's never going to be pretty. We know it's probably not the performance we were wanting. It was a little bit scrappy, a little bit indisciplined, but fair play to Scarlets. They're a good side. They made it difficult for us. So yeah, we're just happy to get through and on to the next now.
In terms of the work-ons ahead of Glasgow, who can be a tough opposition, played really well against the Stormers last night. What do you put your finger on?
Yeah, I mentioned a few of the things there. Our discipline wasn't great. We were a little bit loose in that first half with the ball. The conditions made it a little bit tricky, but we should have managed the game a little bit better. And yeah, we know Glasgow are going to have their tails up. They were great last night, in fairness to them. So yeah, it'll be a tougher game.
Well done, Hugo. Congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you.
Let's bring in Jack Conan then.
So just to pick up on the point I was about to make, Stevie, you know, Leinster, they edged their way back into the territory we know they're capable of. Do you think that is the monkey off their back now? They can look to the semis and beyond?
No. Because they've shown over the last 4 seasons that when it comes to the crunch that they just can't get over the line, and until they do that, I don't think the monkey will ever be off the back. Yeah. And I think today, like Hugo Keenan said it 3 or 4 times there in the interview, we were a little bit off, always a little bit, you know, in the second half, and I think they were. They get off to a fast start, and then if a team comes back and closes them down, they get a little bit edgy, maybe can't get into their flow, they kick the ball a bit more. So, you know, Glasgow next week, if they can hang in there, weather the storm in the opening 15-20 minutes, it'll be a much bigger crowd, I'm sure, at that game. If they can do that and get their game going, they'll really pose a lot of threats.
That's it. You know, on the flip side of that, we were at the Glasgow game last night, they were hitting their straps, and that's where you put the form to bed and go, well, actually, suddenly it's knockout rugby, and they hit their straps just at the right time, just as they did last year where they won the URC. So that does make it interesting for next week when they come here. It's
a funny old game, isn't it, Simon? Because we were here not that long ago when Leinster absolutely pulverised Glasgow, 52-0 on this pitch here. And now, a couple of weeks later, we're talking about a scenario where they face each other again in a different competition, and Glasgow might have the edge.
Absolutely, and I think today, given their performance today, Leinster were good, but as I said, at times, they looked very nervous at times. I think we saw a lot of balls down, especially on the outside of the 22, that we're not used to seeing. And that's nerves, that's knockout rugby. And Glasgow have their tails up, as Hugo said. They played really well. They're in a good position, confident. Nobody's going to expect them to win again now next week. As we well know, Leinster have 10, 12 Lions. They have a Springbok and All Black. Every team they come up against will be the underdog. But Glasgow will, funnily enough, fancy their chances given what they saw out there today.
It's going to be a fascinating matchup next week. We can look forward to that one already. But before we do that, let's hear from Jack Conan.
Jack, well done. Safely through to the semi-final. The season extends for at least another week. What's your review on today's performance overall?
Good in parts. I think our indiscipline killed us a little bit. Gave a lot of soft penalties. It's fair to Scarlets, they stuck in it and they battled hard. So they're a team with a lot of passion, and I think they pushed us at times. I think we were just inaccurate and just forced things a little bit. So look, good to be having another week, but yeah, some frustrating bits there.
When you say you're forcing things, is there a little bit of nervousness, anxiety within the camp, given, you know, it's knockout season and it's a while without a trophy?
No, I don't think that's it. But I think it's just, you know, lads want to have big moments. They want to feel like they're doing well, and sometimes it's just a little bit of over-eagerness, a little bit overzealous, and you force things a little bit, and sometimes you get away with them. Ref doesn't pick them up, but I thought Holly was great there today, and she was fairly on the money with her calls. So we just gave away some stopping penalties. I don't think it's anything more than lads trying a little bit too hard.
Glasgow were missing quite a number of players when they came here in European competition. They looked pretty good against the Stormers at Scotstoun last night. You know them well. How far away do you think Leinster are from a big full medal performance at this stage of the season?
How far away are we? I don't know, next Saturday. That's as far away as we are. I know that's probably not the answer you wanted, but yeah, look, Glasgow, it's strange when you play the team kind of in the last 6 weeks, played them twice, so kind of helps with the prep a lot because you know what they're going to do to some degree, but then again, every time you scout a team, they always come with something a little bit different. So I don't think we were great the last time we played them. Obviously we had a good win in Europe, but they've lads come back in and everything else, so it'll be a tough test for us.
Thanks for your time as always.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Interesting interview that, Stevie. That's not the demeanour of a man who's just won a quarter-final.
Yeah, I think it's because the performance probably didn't live up to what they talked about all week, you know, and you want to go out and you want to deliver. In the opening 10 minutes, everybody, you know, I'm standing beside Ryan saying, geez, this could be 100 points if this continues on this vein, because Scarlets were so poor and Leinster were so good. But then there's just a little change, and it wasn't that many weeks ago when Quins went across the way and got pumped by nearly 70 points, and Danny Kerr's telling everybody on podcasts, and rightly so at the time, that he thought that Leinster were a better team than Ireland. And here we are only a number of weeks later, and now there's all these question marks coming up just because they've been struggling a small bit against other teams, or is it because other teams are slightly working them out? And that's what brings the intrigue for next week, because Glasgow have been pumped. They've also lost the game, but it was a lot closer, and now can they come back a third time and get the right result?
Their character was tested today when Scarlett scored just before half-time. It made it a one-point game, so all eyes were on what Leinster did next. And to be fair, they came out and started that second half really well.
Yeah, they did, and it was almost like they changed up the tactics, because you could see what they were doing. There's that downpour rain which nearly drowned Simon Zebo here. I thought maybe the fans had something to do with it. I'm pretty sure someone had taken the drain pipe away up there just to get Zebo wet. They heard him in the build-up, but they did. They changed the game up a little bit. They were kicking a lot more, and these little deft kicks in behind are what got them back into the game, as well as those big spiral bombs chasing after everything. And they just knew, let's play the territory a bit more. But they got down here, Gibbs and Bart, they went down the right-hand side, and then when they come back, no covering behind, a really smart little chip over the top there to put them in.
Happy with the grounding, Stevie?
Yeah, I was up in the stand. I thought maybe Jimmy Osborne had touched the ball before it hit the deck, but on second look there he didn't. But it was brilliant play. Ian Madigan called it. The way Gibson Park actually went down the short side to bring the Scarlet scrum half around, so the backfield were sort of a little uneasy, and then the strike and the lovely kick, great execution.
Yeah, and I guess good tactics as well, Simon, because you'd be forgiven for Leinster going back to their power game in the first 5 minutes of that second half, just to try and batter down that Scarlets defence a bit more, but a bit of deception worked.
Yeah, and it's smart rugby, it's cup rugby, and that's how you win these big games. It's through moments like that, unexpected moments from the Scarlets defence. They'll be disappointed with the backfield cover. That's not good enough, having nobody back there or chasing across. Rather, you look at the blindside wing, you look at the 9, between the two of them, one of them has to sort it out. But yeah, accurate from Leinster. Those kind of moves sometimes can be called on the fly. Gibson Park takes a couple of steps to the right, and then all of a sudden that option becomes the live option. So yeah, fair play to them. They were clinical when they had to be, but still a very patchy performance, and as I said, Glasgow will be licking their lips. And
really it was, a mirror image of that first half. 2 tries in one short burst, 2 tries in 10 minutes in the first half, same in the second with the Hugo Keenan one.
Yeah, they came back again, but again, it was all to do with field territory. The possession, you had, every time they got the ball back there in their half, they were just knocking it long. You had James Lowe trying to put it in behind constantly, just trying to put them under pressure. And they end up here through some pretty good kicks, some great kick chase, and then a poor exit by Scarlets. And then once the Leinster get hold of the ball here, they just look so dangerous. And this is what we saw exactly in the first half. They just put the phases together. They start to play a really good brand of rugby, which we've seen them do all season. And when it's time to pull the pin, they try and get out the back. And Geordie Barrett, he was pretty quiet today, actually. You didn't see a huge amount of him. Over the last 2-3 weeks, he's been their standout player. But that's probably because they look like they played with the ball in hand a little bit more over the last 2-3 weeks, whereas today, kicking a little bit more, they finally got in there, and then they didn't really have to work that hard to get a try at the end of the day. So, listen, we talk about what's going to happen next week. The weather will have a big variation on it. You know that Glasgow want that dry ball to try and throw it around and go from everywhere, but Leinster have been smart tactically today as well.
Yeah, and I think as well next week, I think Glasgow will counter-attack a bit more, as you say, given the conditions. But Scarlets were at times just trying to stay in the fight, stay close to Leinster, make them the ones to, to get nervous, I suppose. But I'd imagine Glasgow will counter some of those kicking options that will be sent their way, just the way Northampton, caused Leinster a lot of problems. We saw Finn Smith bursting through the defence on counter-attack. They're not as solid as, their line speed gives off. So there's opportunities there. Scarlets didn't take some of them today, but I'd imagine with the running threats as well that Glasgow have, they'll be looking to punish Leinster and counter next week.
But they never rolled over the Scarlets. There was that Prendergast penalty that took Leinster 3 scores clear, and I guess another team might have said, it's not our day, let's pack up and go home. But the Scarlets kept plugging away. Johnny Williams signed a new Scarlet this week, signed a new contract this week with the Scarlets, and he's on the Wales tour to Japan, and he was the guy who orchestrated this.
Yeah, and the thing about the Scarlets sitting up in the stands again, you just wanted them to get another 3 points or another score just to make it quite edgy and see what Leinster were sort of made of. But you know, it's the first time in the second half in 71 minutes where they actually got themselves a line break, you know, right up the middle of the pitch, and they were able to string a few passes together, and it's good pace. A tired Jack Conan there, and he gets in underneath the sticks, and do you know what? They thoroughly deserved that today. You know, they didn't roll over like many people thought they might have.
That's a brilliant counter-attacking try, just as we were speaking about, you know, attacking the short side, keeping the ball alive, and Leinster overfolded, and the option for the open side comes alive. So there are huge opportunities to counter-attack against that side. Just have to take them when they pop up.
The thing you've got to get right against Leinster is you've got to try and get ahead early, because they even spoke about it. I think Northampton spoke about it. You've got to try and get them chasing the game, because then you start to see them get the jitters a little bit. Whereas if you're chasing a game like Scarlets, we wanted them to have a crack, but they were just trying to get out of their own half. They were trying to exit cleanly. Actually, when they had a couple of opportunities to counter-attack, they looked pretty dangerous. And dare I say, Leinster looked a little bit acceptable. So Glasgow need to try and get out in front. Teams that play this Leinster team need to make them chase them and try and find a way to put them under a bit more pressure.
Well, despite the defeat for the Scarlets, it's been a shot in the arm for Welsh rugby, the fact they've got to the last 8. It's been a miserable 12 months if you're a Welsh rugby fan, a regional rugby fan. So Dwayne Peel and his team do have a lot to be proud of today, and he's been speaking to our guys.
Dwayne, commiserations. I'm sure you're very proud of your players for the effort they put in out there. What's your overall assessment?
Yeah, I thought exactly that. I think I'm very proud of the compete that we showed. You know, 12-0 down early, you know, could have been, and I thought we showed some good character to get back into the game. And 15-14 half-time, I thought the first sort of 10 minutes of the second half, they took a stranglehold a bit with their kicking game, and we couldn't quite recover after that. But look, I think the game, we didn't probably get enough of the game with the ball. I think we spent a lot of it in our half, which is credit to them. So it's, look, I think it was a really competitive performance to bring it back 31-20, 30-21 then. You know, gave us a bit of a sniff, but I felt, yeah, obviously bitterly disappointed from where I am now, but like obviously proud of the effort that we showed and the commitment. And you know, this team have a long way to go, and it's just the start of the journey. And I think that's the exciting part for ourselves. You know, we've got a lot of young guys who are experiencing that for the first time today, and we'll grow off the back of it.
Leinster got significant boost off that bench, as we anticipated they might, with the quality of player they have. And as you say, in that third quarter, a couple of tries that I'm sure you would like to look at and have back, and maybe the yellow card as well. But overall, I mean, I'm sure so many pluses to take out, not just from today, but from the last 6 weeks or so, and the season as a whole. Yeah,
I think the season as a whole, I think to start, I think we wanted to be competitive. You know, that was our one big goal this year. We were here to compete, and you know, we've done that up until the 80th minute of the last game. You know, and I think that's a proud effort. Back to Leinster, obviously their quality side, and you know, when you bring in Sheehan and Snyman off the bench, you know, it's you know, two brilliant players there. You know, some of the world's best players. So I think that. Yeah, look, that's the nature of this competition, and you know, as I said, it's the start of the journey for us, and we'll grow now over the next couple of seasons, and next year we'll come back and we'll be stronger, I'm sure.
Gentlemen, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Cheers. Thank you.
He speaks well, Stevie, and I guess it goes back to what we said at the start of the show. The Scarlets have been on quite the journey. You referenced it there. They're 21 points better off than they were last year. That speaks of real, genuine progress, despite the backdrop of infighting and slashed budgets and uncertainty over whether there are going to be 4 Welsh clubs in the near future. So I suppose to closet yourself away and discard all the outside noise and just get on with the rugby, they deserve credit for that.
Yeah, they massive credit. And I think, you know, Dwayne Peel, Tom Shanklin, and a couple of the other Welsh pundits last year were telling us, you know, how much pressure he was under, you know, scrutinised every single week, the same mistakes every single week. Their discipline was horrendous, yellow cards, red cards, and they seemed to have sorted that out. Now, it did creep into the opening 10 minutes of this game. Sam Lousy, penalty straight away, giving away territory. Off the back of it, they concede a try, and the coaches are sitting there going, oh no, not again. But they scrapped hard, and that's what they've been doing all season. They've been scrapping hard, and I think he's maybe changed the mentality of the players. I think they've always had the skill. They've always tried to play that with game. And yeah, fair play to Dwayne Peel. He came today, and Big Jack Conan's come in to say hello.
Oh, there he is.
How are you, man?
Well done, Jack.
Congratulations, Jack. Thanks for coming over. We saw your interview just there, pitchside actually. For a winning captain, you don't seem delighted, but I guess that speaks of yet more progress to come, does it?
Yeah, I think like if we came out and performed really, really well, then you'd be happy and you think, right, great stepping stone for next week. But I think by our own standards, I don't think we were great. I think our indiscipline really let us down a good bit, gave them kind of a foot into the game, things like that. I thought we were inaccurate at times. To be fair to them, they were coming off the line pretty hard and they were catching man and ball. And that terrifies me every time we run out. Every single time the fireworks goes out.
Never get used to that.
So yeah, a little bit frustrating, but look, we did enough to get a win, and hopefully we can build on that now.
We were talking now about Glasgow, and the curious thing about rugby, the fact that you pulverised Glasgow on this very pitch a matter of weeks ago, much closer encounter in the URC towards the end of the regular season. Rugby can change in the space of a couple of weeks, can't it? And we're now talking about what could be an epic semi-final between two very closely matched sides.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's mentally kind of that bit harder to play a team that you've played a lot in the last few weeks. Obviously, we had the great win against them in Europe, and then I think it was 2 weeks ago we played them in the last round, and it was, we'd already cemented top spot, so it was a matter of pride for us to make sure that we had built on the previous week in Zebra, and obviously the week before that had been Northampton, so we wanted to make sure that we were building a bit of momentum into these few weeks, knowing that we obviously had last week off, so that was a huge matter of pride for us. So look, we weren't fantastic that day, but to be fair to Glasgow, they're obviously a good side, so it makes it a little bit easier when you're reviewing a team that you've played a lot in the last few weeks, and I'm sure they'll come up with something different, but we're obviously pretty comfortable, not comfortable, but we know what their threats are a lot. So
did you watch them last night?
Sorry.
No, I didn't. No, I was putting my baby to bed. So
priorities.
Far more important things.
Jack, what's the last few weeks been like? Obviously, a huge amount of media publicity about getting knocked out in a semi-final. Is it, as a team, you sort of draw a line in the sand and move forward into this competition and everything is about winning this trophy? Or do you look back on that and take a lot of learnings from it?
Well, you got to look back and take a lot of learnings from it, because we just didn't pitch up that day with the physicality that we normally do, and I think that was the biggest thing we took home from it. We've kind of tried to scrap the idea of talking about anything more than the moment in front of our face, the game ahead of us, the day of training, everything like that, because I think we've been a little bit guilty in the past of looking too far down the line.
Yeah.
And now we're just trying to be really moment focused and just build on momentum and have winning moments on top of winning moments. So that's kind of been the mindset for the last while, and I think something we're trying to drive as a player group.
Talk to me about half-time, because obviously there have been little memories of Northampton starting to creep in, and you're going in at half-time, Scarlets just score before you go in. Any panic in there? Was it trying to stay calm? Was it change the tactics?
No. Look, we've been going well, and obviously last play of the game, we fluff our lines a little bit, and they end up going 100 metres, so credit to them, but it was just our inaccuracy. There was no sense of panic. Again, it comes back to that moment-on-moment thing. We're like, right, let it go, whether it be a good moment or a bad moment, and just try to be present in what we're doing and trying to be where your feet are. So look, we took a lot of learnings from the first half. I thought we just tried to play around them a little bit too much, but we just needed to carry through them and tighten them up, and then we can play the space a little bit more, and I thought that was a bit more evident in the second half.
And having played Glasgow so many times now, what will you be expecting from them now going into next week?
Obviously, when we played them 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, they kicked a lot. Obviously, they probably looked at Northampton game, tried to put us into those exit cycles, which we weren't efficient at exiting against Northampton. So we were a little bit better against Glasgow when they tried to do it. So I'm sure they might come, well, I'm not sure about anything, but I'm sure they might come with a similar plan, like that, because they did pay dividends at times. But yeah, look, they're a hugely motivated side. Did a good win last night, and now it's just about freshening up, relax, switch off for 24 hours, and then back to the grind.
All at 24 hours.
Oh yeah. The best 24 hours of the week. Tuesday night and Saturday night. Yeah.
Well, we'll meet again here next week, Jack. Congratulations. Thanks
Cheers,
for coming
lads.
over.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Good to see you, boys.
You too, bud.
Good to see you, big man. Cheers.
So there we are, Leinster march on. They are into the semi-finals, and we have one more semi-finalist to discover who will join them there in the last four. The match has taken place in Durban. It's between the Sharks and Munster, and our colleagues in Supersport have been soaking up the vibes over there.